Okay, so once again, I'm going to talk now about the films that I've seen on Netflix this year. Let's start with I already covered The Laundromat, and High Flying Bird, Steven Soderbergh. Dolemite Is My Name is a film that it's hard not to categorize this as a black themed film because sort of the critic sphere is kind of labeling films that way. And it's telling a black story, which I think is interesting. It stars because cultural appropriation has been ruled by the mainstream press as a taboo thing now. And this is a story about a man, Eddie Murphy, who basically makes a name for himself stealing a homeless person's act. And apparently he's getting a free pass for this, I guess, because it's a black story. I'm not sure. I actually thought the film was not successful comedically. A friend of mine has... it's funny because probably my generation and the generation after me, because I'm not that old, doesn't necessarily see Eddie Murphy as a major comedic figure, but just a comedic figure of the past. And I think this is just a tour de force acting performance, like him in Dreamgirls. I would love to see him nominated for this. He embodies a lot of charisma and stage presence, and you can tell it's Eddie Murphy's stage presence as well as him getting into character and that character stage presence. This was a man who, and I think this is like a classic biopic in which the excitement is seeing a man who's a genius and seeing how their mind ticks. This is basically a man who basically said, I want to be successful and I'm gonna get there however I can, and I'm going to be methodical about it, and I'm going to try to find what that opportunity is, and I'm going to take it. And you could sort of see that through line of how this man ticks throughout the movie. He's really a strong, in that sense, he's an inspiring presence. The other thing I want to mention about this film is that it just has a lot of bizarre, weird casting that kind of works. Wesley Snipes, he's like an action star. He basically plays a prima donna of an actor. Cody Schmidt-McPhee is a UCLA film student who's, I guess, hired by Eddie Murphy to direct the film. There's Titus Burgess, who normally plays gay roles. It's kind of like one of the entourage, Craig Robinson. It's a really solid. It's actually a pretty good film. And it's directed by Craig Brewer, who's always sort of exploring kind of offbeat. I don't know what the connectedness of Craig Brewer, but none of his films are really pedestrian, I could put it that way. I also saw Wine Country, which is a film of the ladies of SNL of a certain era, the trio of Maya Rudolph, Amy Poehler, and Tina Fey, but their lesser heralded sidekick Rachel Dratch is in the mix, as is Anna Gasteyer, and Paula Pell and Emily Spivey, who are writers Emily Spivey's created some decent shows, and she's in the movie, and Paula Pell, so it's definitely a mix of everyone, and there's really no lack of ageism. It's just kind of like a bunch of middle-aged people with middle-aged problems in this movie, which is really refreshing, and different people have different things going on with their lives, and it's a very even-keeled ensemble. One thing about the film, I think, is that I was surprised by the lack of laughs in, say, the first arc of the movie. SNL, if this is a product of SNL writers generally know exactly how to punch up every single 5 or 10 minutes of films. Like, if you look at a comparison like Bridesmaids, they treat it as they're writing as a series of sketches. Each scene has a punchline, it has a point. Generally, I think it was until the characters started showing their true colors at their frustrations with each other and airing it out in the open, that sort of catharsis that happens in a lot of movies where characters just kind of explode. I think 30 Rock often did that, where things kind of unravel in the third arc of the episode, and Tina Fey and her co-stars are unraveling at the end of the episode, and that's and it wasn't until that point that I think things started to kind of get funny. The film actually, in the sense that comedies and feel-good comedies rely on catharsis, the film actually had a lot of catharsis in it and had a feel-good chapter. I was surprised with the direction that one of the romantic turns took. Although it's very little about romance, though. I actually thought it was a really solid movie. Certainly memorable. Again, it's on Netflix, so it's free. I also saw Murder Mystery, an Adam Sandler film. Adam Sandler has sort of been milking the same persona for 25 years now. And the general rap is that movies that he produces in his own production company, Happy Madison, are films that no adults are in the room telling Adam Sandler how to sort of make a quality film, whereas films that he might do for Paul Thomas Anderson or James L. Brooks, like Punch Drunk Love or Spanglish, respectively, are really good performances. So his series of Netflix films and like Blended and Jack and Jill before the Netflix era have started to get bad reviews. So I would say that Adam Sandler's lack of ability to sort of change up his act has sort of caught up to him in the past decade. But this one wasn't actually awful. I must have watched it because I was just bored out of my mind. And I guess the best I can say about it is it's not offensive to the senses, which some of Adam Sandler's work as of late has been. I don't think it was... the film is very along the lines of a genre film, very formulaic, and you don't always mind that. Jennifer Aniston, I think, probably might be a key to it. It's about balancing force. Like a lot of good comedies in this day and age, it combines elements of an action film, elements of mystery and suspense. It's a bit continental as it takes place in Europe, and it stars, actually, it doesn't star other comedic actors. Luke Evans, Terrence Stamp, Gemma Arterton, sort of take their parts a little bit seriously, a little bit heightened, but a little bit... So I think that probably helps balance the film out. And Adam Sandler doesn't do a lot of like childish or manic voices, so I was, I guess you could say, slightly pleasantly surprised by the film being decently, and what I believe is a Happy Madison production, not going for the, not allowing Adam Sandler to be at his laziest point. I'd like to say wine country. I mean, Adam Sandler's condition is, because he appeals to a childlike audience, is to have his films be feel good. Adam Sandler is a happy ending kind of. An Adam Sandler film is a film where you can expect a happy ending. It's probably slightly artificial in the sense compared to some of his other films, like say Mr. Deeds or 50 First Dates, which at its heart is a really solid love story. However, I think this is a watchable film, if nothing else. Maybe slightly less than watchable. Hard to say. Alright, well, I actually have been on 3 train lines while I have been doing this 8-minute and 15-minute video, and knocked out 3 more movies I've seen this year out of the way. So what is that? I think that means that I have done about 8 films in the course of a single day that I reviewed. I don't know if they're crappy or if they're good reviews. I don't know, but I do feel a sense of accomplishment. You can see as the start of this day, I was in bed doing reviews, so feeling great. Have a great day.